did a little bit of work with the advocacy side of things in the associations. I mean, if you'd stayed in that world, how would you have liked to see things play out over the years? Is it education reform? Is it further investment? Like, is it the adoption of technology? All of the above. I mean, where did you see kind of the most potential to just matching up that seemingly limitless demand with the finite supply of actual skilled labor and people to go around?
Yeah, I think where we would the best way to summarize it, I think, is in the programs, we need to do a better job of teaching people to understand what kind of capacity they have, how to set boundaries, and then how to collaborate really effectively. And
Hmm.
that might mean interprofessionally, it might mean within a community, it might mean within your own team. And sometimes it's even outside of healthcare. And when you look at what some of the programs are doing really well, I'd love to say, like, I'd love to do a project where we take the best practices from all these different disciplines and different universities and say, like, this is what a perfect program could look like. But I spent a couple years ago a few weeks touring different places around the country, sort of like mini field trips all day, every day, learning from different spaces. And one of the things that stuck out from a training program perspective was we visited the University of Waterloo, and we saw how a lot of their programs are co op based instead of just kind of the more traditional programs like we're used to. But they also have a lot of their healthcare students paired up with engineering students and tech students, and they have to do projects together. And there were some that were just like blowing my mind, where they'd send engineering students into like an orthopedic surgery department, and people in the orthopedics department would talk about the challenges that they have with like a hip replacement, and they would challenge the engineering students to come up with a solution to it, and they would come up with these really great things, and some of them would actually end up getting seed funding and actually go on to be members of incubators and accelerators and actually launch products. And these are the types of opportunities that I think we have. We're really good at pointing out all of the things that are going wrong, and we really suck at collaborating with other people to figure out how to make it better.
Well, it's interesting. I can't speak for pharmacy, but in medicine for sure, you get a little bit of that like headstrong, almost stuck up kind of, top of the totem pole personality here and there. And I really kind of hate that. I really don't admire that about the profession, right? Like with the people that are talking down to the support staff, and then there's like just an immediate 180-degree change when they're talking to another physician. I don't know if that's like super common in the other healthcare disciplines, but that collaboration, just the, again, like respect and being able to communicate, I think goes a long way to having well-oiled little clinical machines all over the place.
Yeah, and like using them to your advantage, and again, a lot of this is anecdotal and through the experiences of like me and my friends and my clients. But like when I think about pharmacy and physicians, for example, when I talk to physicians in hospitals and pharmacists in hospitals, they love working with each other. Then you talk to physicians in community and pharmacists in community, and they're really heated. Like they've all got stories about like the physicians say, well, the pharmacist went and did this, and I found out about it later, and I didn't like it, and I don't want them doing stuff with my patients. And then you get the pharmacists that are like, this physician isn't making my life very easy, like this poor patient, yada, yada. And like they're not working together to solve some of the issues that are in front of them. Again, even on their micro scale, they're doing this turf war battle about who has control instead of what is the best thing for the patient. But on that, I think the other part that's extremely difficult is like, pharmacy, there's no pharmacist out there that wouldn't love to be able to send someone to a family physician. And the reality is, so many don't have a family physician. So, how do we create the best of both worlds? Um, where these patients have options, and maybe it's pharmacy, maybe it's nurse practitioners, maybe it's midwives, whatever it might be, depending on the situation. How do we actually create a space where it's collaborative and the physicians are going, well, let me show you how you could support these people, because I'm not actually around, I've got great boundaries, and I'm going to be off for a while, and I'm not taking on a bigger patient load, so let me teach you, let me show you, let me help you. And then the other way around, they're saying, how can I make your life easier? Let me do this for you. Let me help you with this. Let me, I mean, we could go on all day about different examples of good collaboration. But instead, we're fighting over whose patient it is in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, it's very common. You see somebody post on one of the Facebook groups, pharmacist did this, chiropractor did that, but there's not a lot of like actual outside of that echo chamber communications going on. I mean, interdisciplinary rounds in the hospital, of course, like very common and fantastic. You get everybody in the same room discussing cases. Like, how can people foster more of that same thing in the community or in private practice?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's like it's having the ability to build your skills, the desire and drive to actually figure out how to do that. And then it's about starting to it starts with just a decision that, this is the kind of human I want to be. This is the kind of community member I want to be. And this is the kind of collaborator I want to be. Even within professions, I find that people are hoarders of knowledge and experiences. We do a terrible job of sharing best practices publicly, trying to make sure other people can be more successful. And I think that's not entirely our fault. I think we're sort of socialized like that through the training that we took and that competition just to get into med school or pharmacy school, that competitive nature of the programs, the awards programs, like all of these things, we're trying to one up each other throughout even our training. And we're socialized not to collaborate. We've almost been taught like collaborating is cheating some of the time, right? And it carries on throughout our practice where we aren't even doing a good job of saying, hey, you know what's working really great in my practice right now? Why don't you go try this in your practice? This might work for you too. And instead, we hoard these experiences and use it to boost our own egos.
Are there any good resources you have or that you point your coaching clients to in terms of just like self improvement? I know that's sort of a general question of like, depends on what the problem or what's going on at the time is. Are there any like really common themes you see or some like really commonly utilized resources that you lean into?
Yeah, it depends on the topic of the day for sure. There's a few, like I'm a reader. If anybody is listening to this and goes, I wish that they could tell me about a book I could read on topic X, just shoot me a note and I'm happy to give more specific recommendations because we could go on all day. But I do think there's a few that really stand out. They're probably all sitting behind me, my favorites. Like Crucial Conversations is a really amazing starting point for a book, learning how to communicate more effectively when things are heated and really important. Um, Leaning in a little bit to learning about influence and persuasion and in a way that's not sketchy or unethical, but how do we actually um, nudge people in a healthy way towards getting outcomes? And that is both in a professional sense, but also with patients. Great skills to have when you're trying to, you know, we often know that we have a lot of the answers, and the challenge isn't whether we can tell them the right answers, but how do we actually get patients to adopt the behaviors or the practices that we need them to do, right? And um, so a lot of these skills are transferable across patient care, but also in the communication and the collaboration that we have in our professional lives. But learning more about how to have effective conversations, really important. Learning more about negotiating. We're negotiating all day long. It's not just about your contract or your job or your hours or your schedule. We're negotiating every day with every patient. We're negotiating with the other interprofessional disciplines that we're working with, or our colleagues that are working in the same clinic or pharmacy as us.
Your
We're
partner,
negotiating
your
all day
kid, your neighbor.
your
Yeah.
kid, yeah, what are you going to have for dinner? Like it's all the time. And so learning some of those skills very intentionally are really important. There's a great book called Getting to Yes about negotiation. And I think the big key takeaway there is we need to stop having conversations where it's me versus you, right? And one of us is going to come out ahead. And I'm spending my airtime trying to convince you that I'm right and hoping you change your mind. And instead, we need to have more conversations where I'm asking questions so I can better understand your point of view instead of me barking at you all of the things that I think.
Seek
It's the
first to
key thing.
understand, then
Yeah,
to be understood, right?
right, exactly. And another real kind of key point is we can't spend as much time on me versus you. We need to focus on the problem, not the person. So that we need to reframe our conversations to be it's me and you together. We're here on the same team against this problem that's sitting in front of us. And when we change the framing of our conversations, we can get a lot further ahead in whatever it is we're trying to accomplish because people aren't going on immediate defense. they're actually there to collaborate with you.
I'm Dr. Jordan Vollrath, and you've been watching Cherry Live, brought to you by Cherry Health. Please like and subscribe to see more clips like this, or check us out at www.cherry.health, Canada's medical network.